So I just got 2 new lines made up for the Jag. Got my neighbour around to help me bleed up the new master cylinder, but it blew a line next to the transmission. And on closer inspection, if I can find it here, as you can see, it's got a nick right there, and that's an angle grinder. What had happened is I actually accidentally cut the brake line when repairing the floors, which causes a massive leak. So I had to get a new line made up. $55, all bent up just to the same spec as the old line. So I'm going to install it now, and when my neighbour comes home, I'll get him to help me bleed this up. So I'm completely amazed, absolutely astonished that this thing actually drives now. Like, it's one thing that it runs, but it actually drives. It actually, this junkyard car that was completely seized up in its brakes and its engine drives. It feels more alive now. Like, the car is actually a car. And the fact that it came from a junkyard and now it's doing this, it's a real milestone for the car, an absolute milestone. The engine runs great. I noticed that the transmission didn't shift from 1 to 2, so I'm going to have to service that. And the overflow bottle is cactus, it's rusty, it's leaking everywhere. But looking at the car, it's just, there's so much work to be done. Like, the ball joints are all dried out and the bodywork needs to be completed. But wow, I'm actually really blown away by this. It's a real great motivator getting to this point. So getting away from all that excitement, I've decided to take the transmission pan off to see why it wasn't shifting. It wasn't actually shifting during the test drive, and I'm not too sure why. It went into gear, but it wouldn't actually upshift into second and third. So transmission pan off, and while I'm there, I'm also taking a look at how I'm getting the ball joints off, so that's why the wheel is off. Excuse the angle, it's very awkward. That's the underbelly of the Type 8 transmission. Yeah, the transmission pan's out. It looks really clean. See, that's my problem pipe. It needs to go into there somewhere. I can't fucking quite see it. Yeah, that's the pipe that was just hanging out. I took the transmission pan off. Groovy. So this is the pan here. It's a bit sludgy, and I spilt it everywhere despite having an oil pan. And I can see that there's a little bit of sludge in there, but I'm not too concerned about that because I'm thinking it's probably due to sitting more than anything, and the fluids have separated. Because you've got to remember, this car was parked 25 years ago, and who knows how long before that it had a transmission service. We got the filter screen here, and
you're not going to be able to see that very well, but some minimal debris on it. I was expecting a lot more clutch material for how the car was acting, but it's actually really not that bad. And it's a metal scrim as well, so I'm able to just clean that out. It's small enough that it will fit on my gasket roll, I reckon. So cut new gasket there and clean out the metal filter. I'm planning on cycling the transmission fluid, so disconnect the hard lines, the cooler lines, chucking through about 10 litres of transmission fluid, flush all that gunk out, then fill it up and see if it shifts. Fucked if I'm gonna rebuild this thing. I don't know how to rebuild transmissions. They're too hard. Too many things are pressed in. I don't want tools. I want results. So I cleaned out the pan and the filter. The filter came up alright, and when I cleaned off the pan with some degreaser, looks a bit like, you know, it doesn't look as well as it could be. So I decided to give it a quick spray of red oxide paint or lead oxide paint. But halfway through spraying it, I realised, oh wait, if the transmission leaks, transmission fluid is red, and I've painted this cover red. So whoops. But anyway, but I like it. I think for a sump colour, I think it's really pretty. So let that dry out, and I'll cut a new gasket for it. So while I'm dealing with the transmission, I've got this beautiful fresh oil on the ground. Something actually came in the mail today, which is a bit controversial, but I'm sure it's going to make this engine look really sexy. Look at that. Boom. RAMFLOs. Nice, crispy set of airflows. Isn't that just the most wonderful thing you've ever seen? So a little expensive, and they didn't come with air filter elements or the skeleton frames that you'd get inside of them, but these are going to look really good on this engine with triples. I told you I like triples a lot, so I need to have the proper triples look. And there's a reason for not having the for not using the factory airbox anyway, and that's primarily to do with the radiator hose. It sits right in the way of the air intake, and I can't actually pipe the factory air intake into the guard. I can't put a pod filter at the end of that air box because it will clip the hood, and in general access to underneath the manifolds is really poor because of how big the airbox is. And as much as I like the airbox, I've got to have the individual air cleaners. So yeah, don't worry, the airbox, I'm just going to put that on the shelf in my garage in case I ever want to go back to stock, but these are going to look shit hot. God damn. So to make the filters, I've bought for $10 this indoor round upholstery of 400 by 45mm. And so then a little plate gets put onto that disc of foam, and cut out 3, just mark it out with the pen, which creates 2 of these filters, lovely filters, which then stuffs into one of those. And it's the right density and things. I've checked totally, trust me. I checked it against the motorcycle filter, so it should all be fine. So for $10 I got a set of air filters and change. Got a set for the next time I do this, so that's groovy. And there's the design in CAD, a nice filter cage. I'm going to print that off and see how well it fits. Yeah, this iteration of the airbox cage can't be made because one of the legs has already been knocked off. I'm going to have to print this design upside down for it to get a better base. It was bucketing down just a few minutes ago and my pants got all wet, which is not cool. It's still raining. Very rainy. However, in this rain, look at that. Isn't that just bloody marvellous? Triple filters. I'm going to turn the car on, see if they suck in. I don't have that plastic cage made up yet because my 3D printer jammed up. The nozzle's blocked. So I put some baling wire through here to avoid sucking, but I'm expecting it to suck in, to be honest. Just the vacuum of the engine will just pull that straight in. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a go. But look at that, so cool. Hell yeah. And there's the old oil filter. When I got this engine, when I was unsticking the engine, I didn't know if it was going to be a runner or not, or a good runner. And so when I flooded the bores with kerosene and diesel to unstick it, after that I had to drain the kerosene out of the sump. So I had to drain the oil, and to refill it I just used Coles brand 15W40. $12 it was 12 bucks. It was literally the cheapest oil I could get my hands onto, and I made that conscious decision because I didn't want to spend good money after bad. So it just got whatever oil, and then it turned out it was a runner. Not only is it a runner, but a very strong, very good runner after unseizing it. So it's been a few months now, and after running it all this time, I figure, you know what, let's give it some better oil. So I'll be putting some Castrol GTX 2050 into it, and I also took this oil filter off, a early 90s Ryco oil filter, Z113. I thought it was going to be a paper element style, but apparently not. So just a spin-on metallic cartridge. So one of these from Ryco, they still sell them. They're $83, which is far too expensive for an oil filter. So I'm getting a Cooper brand equivalent, and that's going to cost me just $25, which is still a bit expensive for an oil filter, but it's not $83, so that's why I'm going to buy it. So it's going to get an oil change. And I got around to restaining the dash yesterday. I think it looks really, really nice. It's a bit hard to see because of the lens glaring, but I stained it instead of veneering it. I think the results are really, really good. I actually really quite enjoy this, which is great. So with that restained, and don't worry, I'll glue together that air meter. That fell apart. I've got all the parts, I just got to glue it back together with some epoxy. But I think now we're going to do the subframe, sub dash or whatever. And the treatment that I used was a walnut satin. I didn't want a gloss. I thought gloss would be too shiny. I think a matte is a lot better for an interior like this. It doesn't reflects so much sunlight, especially when I'm driving it. So this sub dash, if you remember, sits underneath the dashboard. A cool thing about British cars at the time is that they had this, because the glove boxes would be so small, and the Jag is no exception. The glove box is teensy tiny. So you got this whole parcel shelf thing that sits underneath the dashboard. Great for chucking your phone up there or any number of things. And yeah, it's got a big issue. Yeah, it's got right where the steering column goes, it's got a big rust thing through here, which makes the whole dash floppy and compromises a lot of its structure. Actually, it's especially a thin part. I think the structure only goes out to here, but it's rusting all through here, and it's going to be quite, it's going to fall apart. So, but I've got a welder, I've got the skill and patience, I can definitely fix this. But that'll be for the next episode, so stick around. Thank you very much for watching.